Jon Snow and Daenerys, a flicker of hope. Within the stark, cold walls of Castle Black, Jon Snow's life was a hollow echo. Daenerys Targaryen's absence gnawed at his soul, her memory a relentless haunt. The fiery passion of the Dragon Queen, her smile, her unwavering conviction, all burned vividly in his mind. The quiet wilderness beyond the wall offered no solace, only the crushing weight of her absence. One night, as the biting winter wind howled through the towers, Jon made a desperate decision. He couldn't stand by. Daenerys deserved a second chance. Death could not be the end. The next morning, he summoned his closest friend, Samwell Tarly. He needed Sam's knowledge and dedication. "Sam, I need your help," Jon began, his voice a strange mix of desperation and fragile hope. "I know it sounds mad, but we have to find a way to bring Daenerys back." Sam stared, stunned, but saw the unyielding resolve in his friend's eyes. "Jon, that's almost impossible. Reversing death. It's ancient magic, forbidden knowledge." "I don't care," Jon retorted. "Scour the archives of Castle Black, the Citadel, anywhere. Find anything that speaks of resurrection, soul transference, any method that could bring her back. If there's a way, we must find it." Sam nodded, though the sheer scale of the task furrowed his brow. "I'll try, Jon. I'll do everything I can." Jon then prepared for an even harder task. He sought out Grey Worm, leader of the Unsullied. He knew Grey Worm despised him for Daenerys' death, but he hoped their shared purpose would transcend hatred. Grey Worm had settled on the Isle of Nath with the Unsullied, a remote, peaceful paradise renowned for its famously poisonous butterflies and treacherous surrounding currents. Jon would have to take to the sea. Samwell Tarly, an odyssey for knowledge. Samwell Tarly began his research in the dusty, forgotten corners of Castle Black's library, but quickly realized the wall's collection was too limited for a quest of this magnitude. Any mention of Daenerys' resurrection would have to be far more deeply buried, perhaps even within the Citadel itself, which had long stringently regulated knowledge of magic. Sam wrote to the Meisters at the Citadel, especially Archmaester Ebrose, but their replies were evasive and cautious, containing only vague references to forbidden knowledge. Therefore, Sam resolved to travel. Leaving Castle Black, risking his position, he headed south towards the Citadel, determined to search its vast libraries in person. The journey was long and perilous, especially for a bookish man who rarely left the safety of a library. Along his way, he investigated small settlements, the ruins of abandoned temples, and lonely strongholds, hoping to stumble upon any ancient writings. One stormy night, while sheltering in a crumbling temple in the Riverlands, Sam awoke to a strange vision. Amidst the roar of the tempest, fire danced before him, and a woman's figure appeared within the flames, clad in red, with glowing eyes. The woman did not speak, but Sam felt a name resonating in his mind: Melisandre. The Red Woman, priestess of the Lord of Light, whom he knew had been capable of bringing people back from the dead. Although the magic of the Lord of Light had never truly interested him, often being dark and unpredictable, this was the first concrete lead he'd found on resurrection. From that moment on, Sam resolved to seek out those who served the Lord of Light. His path led him to the hidden temples and caves of the Riverlands, where rumors claimed followers of the Lord of Light still lived. In an old village, barely touched by the wars, he stumbled upon a hidden, subterranean sanctuary. The air was thick with the scent of incense and old magic. Here, he found a small group of Thoros of Myr's former followers. guardians of the secrets behind Beric Dondarrion's multiple resurrections. Their aged reimagining leader, a former priest named Rhaegar, initially greeted Sam with suspicion. They were reluctant to speak of their secrets, but Sam was relentless. He explained the situation, Jon's torment, and his unwavering determination for Daenerys. Through long conversations, during which Sam had to employ his knowledge of the Lord of Light and ancient magic, Rhaegar finally opened up. "The Lord of Light grants life back," Rhaegar whispered, his voice a mix of reverence and fear. "But life has a price. It is not a simple thing. The soul of the deceased, it can lose something in the return." Rhaegar led Sam to the deepest, darkest recess of the sanctuary, where ancient runes covered the walls, and a stone altar stood in the center. Here, beneath the faintly glowing symbol of the Lord of Light in the darkness, Rhaegar produced a thin, parchment scroll. "This is an ancient record. It originates from the Valyrian freehold. The temples of the Lord of Light guarded it for centuries. It describes an ancient Valyrian ritual once used by powerful dragon riders to bring their loved ones back from the dead, but it was dangerous and full of sacrifices." Sam's eyes widened as he read the scroll. This was what he had been searching for, but it was far darker and more complex than he'd imagined. The ritual required 3 key elements. 1. Dragon fire. Not just any fire, but the breath of a living dragon, the very essence of magic and will, capable of piercing the veil of death. 2. Blood. Not simple blood, but that of a person related to, or deeply connected with, the deceased, who is willing to sacrifice a part of their soul, thereby forming a bridge between the two worlds. 3. The last memories. The deepest, most vivid memories associated with the deceased, which the ritual participant must recall and channel into the ritual, so the soul can recognize its way back. The scroll meticulously detailed the steps of the ceremony, the power of the words, the significance of the gestures, and the importance of preparation. But it also warned of terrible consequences. Failure of the ritual could lead to the loss of the participants' minds, or even their lives. And the resurrected person might not be the same as they once were. Fragments of the soul could be lost, their memories distorted, death itself leaving its indelible mark. Sam knew Jon had to read this. He immediately set off back to Castle Black to send a raven to Jon. Now he was certain Jon could not do this alone. He no longer had a dragon, and he would need someone else for the blood sacrifice. Jon Snow. The perilous journey to Nath, meanwhile, Jon Snow's journey to the Isle of Nath, had become a true odyssey. He managed to find an old weathered ship captained by a Lycene pirate named Areo. Areo's face was etched with sun and sea, his eyes sparkling with the adventures of years past. Jon explained his purpose, though he kept the true aim of resurrecting Daenerys to himself. He simply stated he needed a former ally for an important matter. Areo, who was rumored to have once seen Daenerys' dragons from afar, reluctantly agreed after Jon promised a hefty payment. However, the voyage quickly turned into a nightmare. The Butterfly Sea's reputation was well earned. On the 3rd day, a thick, swirling fog enveloped the ship, from which menacing, distorted shadows began to emerge. Jon initially thought his mind was playing tricks on him, but then he heard the crew's screams. An old, eerie tale was becoming a reality: the soul-eating kelp. This was no ordinary seaweed, but an ancient, magical entity that fed on the souls of lost ships and sailors. Its grasping tendrils coiled around the hull, slowly, relentlessly, draining the life from everything it touched. The crew panicked, many throwing themselves into the water to escape the kelp. only to be dragged down into the depths. Jon, accustomed to desperate fights, acted immediately. He tried to slash the tendrils with Longclaw, but they seemed impervious. Areo, who had witnessed similar phenomena, knew there was only one way to escape: fire. He grabbed the cooking oil from the ship's galley and ignited the kelp. The flames spread quickly, and the soul-eating entity recoiled, emitting a high-pitched, screeching sound filled with the agony of lost souls. The ship, however, was severely damaged. Half sunk, it was only thanks to Areo's masterful navigation and Jon's sheer strength that they managed to reach the shores of the Isle of Noth. The arduous journey strengthened Jon's resolve. If he could overcome such difficulties, then perhaps bringing Daenerys back wasn't impossible after all. As they stepped ashore, the island's peaceful, fragrant air contrasted sharply with the nightmare of the sea. In the distance, thousands of butterflies fluttered, forming colorful clouds. Jon knew that finding Grey Worm would be his next challenge.